In 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. And joining us, as they do every single week for the MGoBlog Roundtable, at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, is our friends from the blog. Joining us once again, our good friend Seth Fisher. Seth, good morning. How are you?
I am deep in my spreadsheets, my friend. I am. You know that I put together that bracket tool every year, and I got like new things in it. I am so into my spreadsheets right now. You have no idea.
Gotcha. All right.
It's a remarkable product, truly. It really is.
And then that voice.
Incredibly obsessive and very useful. So anyway.
Marker for you when you look at how many. Everyone has bracketology now. Everyone, like you go to all these sites, they all have bracketology experts. So there is a thirst for it. That voice you just heard, and of course, you folks watching us know that was none other than the venerable Greg Ross. Greg, good morning. How are you?
Feeling very venerable and very warm. I don't know what it's like in Ann Arbor, but it's nice here. And is it getting warmer?
I guess it's warmed up some.
Okay.
I was talking to my friend Jeremy Lesueur last night. He said, "Oh man, it's I was just outside. It's 70 degrees. Hey, 70 degrees. So it's only so much warmer here.
It's going to be 70 in Ann Arbor on like Monday.
Really?
Yeah. Pouring rain on Saturday for my kid's birthday, and then we'll then things will be nice. Yeah, we've gone from like snow and freezing to like that foggy, just on the edge of freezing. Just so you know what you're missing right here.
Yeah, I know that March and February weather's like. So anyway,
but all of us are focused on indoors right now. Anyway, that big basketball and Michigan basketball in particular has given you a whole lot of reason to stay in, to go to games and be along for the ride. We had our guys down in Champaign last Friday, and I said we were going to cover every big game, and that was, as big games go, boy, that was the most impressive we've seen, a very impressive Michigan team, at least to me, all season long. I want to get you guys' takeaways from that before we get into this week, but just your thoughts on Michigan, starting with you, Seth, securing the outright Big Ten championship and basically handling Illinois.
It was great. My complaint after Duke was that I didn't think we ran enough actions, right? Like they didn't really identify ways to attack Duke and the things that you can do against them. And, they had some foul trouble and whatnot that explained it. This was the opposite. I think that very early on, they identified Keaton, Wagler. Maybe it's Wagler. They're so European. I figure that guy must be from some, there's no way he's from Kansas. They're lying about that. But they identified that, he's 6'6", but he's like 180. He's like thin, right? He's not really able to handle a guard, and he's not really able to handle a big at the extreme levels. So they really went after him, and I thought, they got some early buckets from Cadeau that showed that he could get to the rim on him, that he could kind of put him in bad spots, and they ran just actions just to get those matchups. And hunting matchups is the way this team works, right? These guys can kill at the rim, and when you can add Cadeau as a rim threat to the rest of the rim threats, there's just nobody else can play with these guys, right? Now, I thought that was a good way to attack Illinois. Defensively, Illinois had, I think, their worst performance of the season offensively, and it was like the fifth best a team has done against Michigan. So Illinois, like, they earned the three-pointers that they got. They earned the shots that they got. Wagler was great. I thought they had Kellen Boswell was really good, that combo guard, the burly guard. And I think that's someone to watch out for in the future, that Michigan does struggle a little bit when they have like one of those matchup problems. Wagler was fine. They handled him as well as you could. He made good shots. That's a guy who's going to do that. Boswell worried me a little bit because like that thick combo guard has been a problem for them this year, right? Like that's a little big for Cadeau. They're not going to have Kaysen going forward to help on that anymore. And you don't really want to get stuck in a lot of minutes with Gale on the court because of his offensive limitations. So I saw a lot of good things. I mean, that was a team that could win a national championship. That felt like a March game. But it was very enlightening as far as like what Michigan can do and what they can't do, and where this team stands right now. And yeah, man, and outright Big Ten champs. Like, who was expecting that?
Yeah, it was a defensive grinder. Wagler got his points in the second half. I mean, they were physical with him. Yaks was in his grill, but the thing about it, Craig, when they weren't like man up, a different guy would switch on him, and everyone was able to stay in front of him from Rez to you mentioned Ellie Cadeau on offense. He got a piece of him. I think he had 6 points at halftime. That was the game to me, that they really kept him in check and made him. He had to work for his points, even the ones he got in the second half.
Yeah, it's interesting. I get called out now and again and people will say or have said they demand apologies from me over one thing or another. Not so much apologies, demand that I take something back. And so I had this game wrong, so I'm taking it back. I'm sorry. Seth had it right. He went with Ken Palm. Ken Palm had Michigan winning this game by a point. Brian, I think, just had my back on this. Torvik had Michigan losing this game by a point. Of all the Big Ten teams, the one I've watched the most this year, aside from Michigan, has been Illinois. And I've been very impressed with Illinois. I think, unlike other unnamed teams in the Big Ten, they play actual basketball, and they try and play actual basketball. And what they do to me is impressive. What I didn't appreciate and what I was wrong about is they just aren't as quick or as physical as Michigan is. And so as you point out, I mean, even though they're big, I think they're the biggest team in the country. They didn't beat up Michigan on the boards at all. I think Michigan had a higher percentage of offensive rebounds actually than Illinois did. But Illinois, Michigan put Yaks on Wagler, if that's how you say his name, and I think it is. But they switched, and to the point where every player who played in that game, or at least 9 players, had a time when they were guarding Wagler, and that includes Will Cheddar. And Will Cheddar was on him for at least one possession and did okay. I mean, this was a team where Will was could be a definite asset, because none of these guys is that quick. And it's not that Will isn't a skilled player. He's a very skilled offensive player. It's that he just can't check guys who can really move their feet. And in this game, he was able to pretty much check anybody you threw him on, because none of these guys is all that quick. Now, what Dusty said, and I thought this was interesting. Dusty's press conferences are the best. I mean, you always learn something. Even if you don't have a good question, you learn something. And he said that, their plan was to put Yaks on Wagler and to switch as a matter of routine. But Yaks didn't want to do that at times. Remember, he said Yaks thought, I like guarding point guards. I like, all small players want to be centers, and all centers want to be, shooting guards or point guards. But he wants to check him.
Yeah.
And a couple of times, to Dusty's consternation, he quote called the switch off.
Yeah, he went rogue.
Went rogue. And so what did Dusty say? He goes, well, he wasn't nuts about it, but then he thought, that made us less predictable. And it made the defense a little less predictable. And so there was some upside in it. And along with 1,000 other things he said the last couple of weeks that are just fascinating, that to me was one. We played good. And I'm surprised. I was a little surprised that we were a better matchup for Illinois than I thought. particularly when they didn't shoot it that great. Because this team, they've got a bunch of 7-foot guys who can step out and shoot the ball. And in this particular game, they just didn't do it. You have some reticence here about that, Sam.
So a couple of things. I had Michigan winning this game. I felt like Michigan State exposed some things, and Michigan further demonstrated it. Yes, Illinois is longer than any team in the country, and they're skilled. They can shoot the basketball, but they are unathletic. And if you're about that life, you can punk them. You can punk that school. You can push them around. Michigan State isn't the most skilled team in the world. But I give them a lot of credit. We'll talk about Michigan State coming up. I got them as the second best team in the Big Ten. Talk about things you got to be. You got to show some contrition for, kind of calling them out as the worst team of the top 5 in the Big Ten. I was wrong about that as they've played these last couple of weeks. But Michigan State beat the hell out of Illinois. I mean, they beat them up physically. You can do that against them. So a lot of teams aren't going to be able to impose their will physically. Most teams won't be able to take care of their length with athleticism. But the best teams, and that's who you are kind of comparing Illinois to, you're talking about can they make a run? Man, they're going to run into athleticism and physicality in the tournament once they get past the first weekend. And I just don't know if they're going to have enough to consistently, they lost 4 of their last 6. And Michigan, they went out and dominated the paint. Maize in the first half, and then Adai. I wonder what you guys think, Seth. Man, I thought the most dominant stretch of the game was Adai in the second half. They couldn't do anything with them on either end of the floor.
Yeah, first of all, we got to give Red some credit. Goes back to his old time. They got a picture of a clown of him in clown face. That I didn't know you're allowed to do that. Like I thought, Big Ten teams were supposed to kind of remove those kinds of things. But anyway, there it is, and he just punked his old team, and it was that was one of the best Reds games we've ever seen. He was just, you talk about physicality, right? And how to beat those guys up. He was the one who's just showing them how to play physical. And when he does that, I think you get a better game out of Mara too. Because Mara's down there, they technically play the same position or whatnot, right? Like so they're competing with each other. And Mara, when he's physical, we saw this against in the Purdue game too. As soon as you see him go and get to the rim when he's on the block, you got this game, right? And then as far as the way Illinois plays offense, the reason why Michigan struggled against Nebraska and lost to Wisconsin was they play 5 out, and Illinois is another 5 out team. And this is what we were concerned about, right? Because what happens when you kind of pull Mara out to the perimeter? Well, first of all, if Mara can operate in space like he did against Illinois, you can get away with that again, right? That was our concern, is that Mara was just kind of, once he'd go out there, he'd be stuck out there. In this game, it was very different than I think he played in Nebraska in the Nebraska and Wisconsin games. He was all over the place, and I don't know if he was more motivated or he's just in better shape. Or Mara's a cipher sometimes, right? He can go up and down. When he's up, and this game he was up, you watch him and he's just he's checking this guy, then he's over here moving on this guy, then they switch and he's dropping with this guy. They did get some of what they wanted to do, but I think Michigan realized that Kylan Boswell is not a guy that you have to worry about him shooting that much. He'll take his shots, but he'll miss them. And then, like you pointed out, Jake Davis is not a very strong guy. David Mirkovich is not a very strong guy. Wagler, he's a great scorer, but he's not he's a freshman, right? And he makes freshman mistakes on defense. And people noticed this about Illinois before. They were just okay on defense. And I don't know why they don't use the other Avicic, Zavonier, more, because he's a defender. But, yeah.
Here's the key, Craig. Their attitude, their physicality, their defensive presence. They didn't need him, so they said they didn't need Maize. They were better off with. That's where it went, because they can't check. It doesn't matter against the majority of the Big Ten or the majority of the good team, but you're talking about being elite. You're talking about making a run to the Final Four or a championship. So how do you match up with the best teams? They can't check them. They don't guard well enough. And we've seen that. I mean, if you make Michigan State look good off, I guess I don't want to disrespect Michigan State, but they aren't the most skilled offensive team in Michigan State. What they were able to a lot of it was fast break points, but they were able to have some success against Illinois. And I just think that the best teams are going to be able to. Illinois' best chance. I heard Raphael Davis talking about this too. He said, "Man, they're gonna have to just win shootouts if they're going to be successful." I think he's spot on.
Well, I think they can win shootouts, and I think they have a legit shot at making a run in the tournament. This team can really shoot the ball, and I don't know if you saw Wagler against Purdue.
Yeah,
I mean, that was like something I never saw. That was like watching Caitlin Clark at Chrysler Arena in the game here. I mean, I mean, he is a basketball player. He's going to be a lottery pick, and there's just a lot of offensive talent there. I was wrong, and you were right, Sam, as was Seth, and that I sort of did not appreciate the weaknesses that Illinois had on, defensively in particular. And when you saw that, and when they didn't shoot great, they got the crap kicked out of them in this game, to be honest. I mean, this is a 20-point game, and as it came down the stretch. But I don't want to count Illinois out yet, because I've watched too many games with them this year when I just said, wow, this team shoots the ball. They got 7-footers stepping out and shooting the ball. Aside from Wagler, they're good.
Yeah, I think the key is, I think they're going to shoot the lights out in some games. What are you when you can't get to your strengths?
Yeah.
Can you still be successful? Boy, then that's going to happen in the tournament, in the third or fourth game. That's why I have them stumbling at some point. But I do want to get your take on the, coming out of that game. The bad news is the loss of LJ Kason. So I'll start with you, Craig. How do you think Michigan is going to account for what is a big loss?
Yeah, it's obviously a big loss. I mean, I read, and I didn't investigate this, I read that Kason was shooting over 50% from three in the month of February, and he was the #1 3-point shooter in the conference during that period of time. I don't know if that's true. I read it. It feels like it's true because he has shot the ball quite well. He's a physical, tough guy. He makes some mistakes, taking it to the basket at times, and then he also manages to finish at times. He plays hard on defense. He's an improving defender. So yeah, this is a big deal. It's a big deal from his play, and it's an even bigger deal on this team, because I don't know who you play once Cadeau is in his ordinary foul trouble. Now, Cadeau's going to have to play more carefully. I think he's going to have to play between 35 to 40 minutes in the game. People say you need a break. No, you don't. He can play 40 minutes and 6 nights in a row, and he'll be fine physically. The problem is what happens when he has to go down, or when he has to sit because there are foul issues. And because I don't see another point guard or natural point guard on the team. Roddy is not, doesn't handle the ball well enough. Namari, he's one of the possibilities. McKinney hasn't, he's been a low turnover guy. That's good. He also is a very low assist guy, but he hasn't been in this role much.
Nope. Keep going.
Well, you can disagree, but I just don't see McKinney playing that
You're almost there. You're almost there.
And there's one person who might be able to, and that's Yaks.
There we go.
Yeah. And so maybe you've got to play Yaks at some point in time in that role. Clearly he can handle the ball okay, or well enough, get you into an offense. Certainly McKinney will get more minutes, and he's playing better as the season goes along. That's for sure. But this could be a big deal. But the biggest thing is Cadeau's got to back off slightly on defense. I think he can't get into people's face and get the sort of cheap fouls that he's gotten to this point in the year.
I don't know if you can stop Cadeau from getting cheap fouls.
Yeah.
He is who, because it's not like it just happens against Michigan State or something, right? Like it's not just it doesn't happen randomly. It's who he is. Now he could probably go for fewer steals and whatnot, but like you're still going to get Cadeau. You're still going to need those minutes replaced. I think Trey McKinney. You're replacing 2 minutes, right? You got to replace two things. Sorry, you got to replace his, LJ Kason's minutes, and you have to replace LJ Kason's creation, because nobody on this team can just go and score a basket, right? The guy is just such a great finisher. And Sam was talking about this earlier. What do you do when they put you out of what you want to do, right? Everyone's going to be prepared for Michigan in the tournament. Everybody's going to know exactly what they want to do to Michigan. So what do you do when they take away what you want to do? And Kason has been that answer. He completely changes how Michigan approaches the game, and it's very hard to prepare for Michigan, if it's Cadeau and the passing and Mara and whatnot. So you're going to need somebody to create his own shots. The best finisher we have on this team is Yaxel, who's left, right? So I think that I don't care if it's 2-point jumpers, I don't care if his Yaxel knows how to go and score. You're not going to get the same amount of bucketness from him that you got from Kason, but that's your next best bet as far as just a guy who can go put it up and try to go rebound and whatnot, because you need to put the ball in the basket. His minutes can go to McKinney, but McKinney's not a creator. And then the last thing is Mara. I think that if you watch a lot of NBA, they run a lot of things through the bigs nowadays. And Mara has definitely shown he can do that. He's got a assist turnover ratio that's a little bit in the negative right now, so I don't like putting too much more usage on him. But if you can develop some things around him, he does have the size, he does have the wherewithal, he does have the will to be a distributor. And you just do it, and that's how people run the NBA nowadays. That's how you can play. So I think Yaxel with the shots, Mara with a little bit more distribution, and I don't know if he can change Cadeau or anything else, but and then McKinney gets the minutes, and McKinney will get value out of those minutes. He's a better pull-up shooter. He's a good spacer. He's a really good defender. I think LJ, we forget that he still had 3 or 4 just mind-boggling turnovers every game. So I think it push some usage to McKinney and you're fine.
Yeah. So a couple of things. You hit on who I cited as one of my replacements for LJ in a die, and I'll make it make sense in a moment. But to get back to one of your original points, Elliott in foul trouble. Listen, Craig is right. He's gonna have to play more. He's gonna have to play over 30 minutes a game. And there has to be a shift in mindset. And I liken it to the shift in mindset that they've talked about with the die. I talked to Drew Williamson on Monday, and it's like, man, he came out, and one of the keys, we aren't even coaches when you're talking about one of the keys to the games are a die not getting in foul trouble. He goes out and he picks up 3 fouls in the first half he picks up the fouls against Purdue, and he goes out and picks up 3 fouls in the first half against Duke. And it's like, man, I mean, can you get that right? Can he get it fixed, or is he just a foul machine? Then he comes out against Illinois and only picks up 1 foul, right? You he's dominant for a stretch. And Drew said he's getting used to the role, to the shift in mindset. But you understand, listen, my presence matters to the bottom line. Sometimes you can coach it till you're blue in the face, and the guy has to actually see it, because you got Merez over here and you got Yaks over there, and hey, you aren't used to being the guy, being an alpha coming from UCLA. Hey, you get a foul, you coach not to foul without or play defense without fouling, but you get in this situation, you pick up one, it doesn't really cost you that much. Then you lose to Duke, and it's probably because of you. Now it's resonating more. So he said, man, you can just see his mindset be such that he understands that you got to be more mindful of how you're playing, more mindful of the circumstance, more mindful of how the game is being called, and take responsibility for that. Elliott's going to have to do the same thing. Like, you don't have the reprieve that you had before. You don't have the guy backing you up to come in and get it done. So I think we're going to see the necessary shift from him. And then as far as who's going to play, Dusty said he said Roddy and Trey. He didn't even mention Namari. Maybe that's because you've seen that play before, where Namari at the point guard position takes him out of his offensive game completely. And maybe he just doesn't want to do that. I feel a lot better about asking Trey to do some of that than I would have felt earlier in the season. With the season under his belt, I feel like he'll be okay. I don't know as much about Roddy. Last thing on a die, though, being an adequate replacement. What I'm talking about is exactly what you hit upon, Seth, where you said LJ Kason is the guy on this team more than Yax, more than Elliott, more than any other individual player. You say, you give him the ball and say, go get it. And he can get it without a ball screen, right?
Yeah.
He creates his own leverage with his dribble, his quick first step. Like, he can get to the rim and either, convert or get to the free throw line. You don't have that not even Yax is a guy where you say, hey, just go to work and he's going to make it happen. Kind of predictable.
Well, he was that for UAB, but at this level he hasn't been that.
We haven't seen that this year. At least put it this way. I'm not saying that he can't be a guy that can do that, but the guy who I feel is more predictably successful at that is a die, man. If he's on the floor, no matter what they do, you can get him the ball. That's number one. Like, he's not gonna come down and get the offense himself, but you can always get a die Mara the ball. Like, you don't even have to practice post entry to get a die Mara the ball. It's like got to be the easiest thing in the world. And we've seen he can score from both blocks. Teams got to make a decision. Are we going to try to single cover him, or are we going to double? And if you double him, he can pick you apart. You can absolutely. I guess I don't necessarily agree that you see a lot of teams running their offense through the post, but some of them do, to your point, Greg. To your point, Seth. And he's a guy you can do that with if he's on the floor. You can run your offense through him. And so when things are bogged down, to me, the best replacement for giving it to LJ Kason is giving the ball to a Adai Mara, and especially if his mindset is like Drew is shifting, like Drew says it is.
Well, I think we need to point out one thing about LJ Kason's usage, and that is it's not like they gave the ball to Kason. Kason was scoring more than anyone else on this team in transition. And he was breaking out. He was getting the ball. He created a lot of those steals himself. The play he gets injured on, it reminded me of when Morez Johnson got injured last year against Michigan State. It was just like a statement play that demonstrated exactly who that guy is. And then he gets hurt and it's over. But Michigan wants to be in transition. But they've had a lot of issues with turnovers in transition. And Kason was the one who you gave him that speed, and he would just go and take it to the basket. They don't have anybody. And if they want to do that with Gale, I think it's going to cause them problems. Now, we've seen Gale do that in the past. I just haven't seen him do it this year. So that's a possibility that Gale just turns in like maybe a little bit more time on the court, a little bit more usage, right? They probably it's hard to go from cold and then go play, right? So maybe if he's getting 15 minutes, 20 minutes a game, maybe it feels a little different for Gale and he can kind of recapture because he used to do that, right? And that's a possibility. I don't know if anybody else can recapture that transition ability. The one who probably could the most is Yaxel. We've seen him just go and put a guy in step. He's got that Euro step thing. He's got that spin move. He can pull up if he really wants to. But as far as initiating offense, I would agree with you. Like Adai is the guy who he can be a locus of offense, and they do that anyway. It's not like you're starting fresh. I think people expecting Trey McKinney because he's got a G next to his name to be a replacement. You're nuts. I love Trey McKinney, but he's not. He's a souped up version of Namari. He's not. He's not the point. He's not the initiator, and I don't think you have to be. Danny Wolf was their point guard last year. You don't have to be the point. You don't have to be officially a point guard to be the point. I don't think Yaxel was the creator that Wolf was, and even Wolf had so many crazy turnovers last year. So I don't really want to see that.
My concern is if Cadeau is off the floor, teams will blitz the ball handler. as Michigan gets cross
Yeah.
half court, and that all of a sudden we'll start seeing some turnovers and they won't be able to initiate any offense at all. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm saying that's a concern that I have, because I'm not sure how well any of our other players are going to handle a blitz from an athletic team, and we'll see. I
It's
don't
a
know.
good point, and it's one of the reasons why this week is going to be intriguing, to see how they manage it. Look, I feel so much better about Trey being able to give you some minutes there. I mean, what I look for from Trey is for it to not affect what he's provided offensively. That's what I want to see, and I just feel like it affects Namari offensively to put him in that role. And he's already been sort of up and down. So I like the idea of trying it more with Trey. I am less confident with Roddy, even though he's the veteran, but at least they've tried it some. And if they got to go to it in a pinch, it's not like he'll be doing it in a competitive scenario for the first time. But really what you're hoping for, fellas, is that Roddy can channel the Roddy from, at the end of last year, where he kind of turned it on after struggling during the season, because he's been kind of nondescriptive late.
I mean, it'd be nice. Can't guarantee it.
Yeah. My concern is if you use Namari also as an initiator, what you lose is him shooting the corner three, which he is absolutely great at, and so he's not going to initiate and still get the nice threes you like him to take. So I don't know. We'll see how it works. Maybe you saw in the Illinois game when they had neither Kason or Cadeau on the court, things just fell apart. And if you recall that, things just completely fell apart for about 4 or 5 minutes, and Dusty had to stop and reset.
Yeah, you got time to prepare for it.
Yeah.
Now, and so you've been probably working it. I expect them to be more competent. But look, you nailed it as we get to this break. Elliott is going to have to be on the floor more.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's like other guys taking pressure off of him, while you might say, hey, you are the guy bringing the ball up the court most of the time, Roddy, or in my opinion, Trey. Yaks, hey man, come on, man. You're gonna have to take on more of that role too. So it's gonna be by committee in some respects. But we need to get to a break. We'll come back on the other side and look ahead to this week. And I know Craig wanted to get some talk in about the stick sports as well. So we'll get to that on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online, thebig1050.com.
Clear on the radio.
Yeah.
Hey, so do you guys think Yaks is the player of the year?
In the Big Ten?
Yes.
I have a feeling they're gonna give it to Purdue just because
I don't know. Purdue is what? They've lost 4 of their last 6. I mean, they don't.
I know,
Purdue
but Purdue
has been a dog.
Okay, you're asking 2 different questions.
Yeah.
Is he the best player in the Big Ten this year? I'd say yeah. If who they're going to give it to, I think they're going to give it to Braden Smith, because the Big Ten likes to reward guys who stick around, and they're still mad at Michigan for going out and getting the number 1, guy in the portal. They hate that.
Well, wait a minute. UCLA, didn't they get this guy Donovan Dent? What is that his name?
He wasn't number 1, Eric Daly? Or Donovan Dent. Yeah,
they're paying him $3 million. They're paying Dent is, I think, one of the highest 2 or 3 paid players in the conference. So no one hates UCLA because their coach is such a warm and fuzzy guy.
They're not beating everybody. No,
I tend to think it has to do, Yaks. Some people are just so obsessed with the stats, and he is not one of the higher scoring guys.
Big deal.
Wagler's up there.
Yeah.
Who else do you have up there? I think that from Wisconsin.
Boyd?
Yeah, Nick Boyd. I think he's up there. I think he's
another guy used to play for Dusty.
Boyd's a nice player. I mean, to me, it isn't even close. It's Yaks. I mean, he's the primary player on the best team. How hard is this? Now, I agree with you, Sam, and Seth, perhaps, they'll say, oh, we love Matt Painter. Hey, we all love Matt Painter. And this guy is a good player. Hell yes, he's a good player. And he's been there for 4 years. Okay. But he's not the best player on the best team. And I'm not even sure Kaufman-Wren hasn't had a better year than Smith, but whatever.
Here's one thing though, man. Purdue is one of the teams there are a couple teams in the league, Northwestern, Michigan State, and I think another one that just make up assists, right? Like if you touch the ball, they'll give you credit, even if you hadn't touched it for 3 months.
Right.
Purdue doesn't do that, and Braden Smith has a 44% assist rate when he's on the court.
He's a fine basketball player, and he's going to be a good player, I think, in the NBA too. I'm not so sure about his defense.
I'm just saying, all right, but you're answering two different questions. Who's the best player in the Big Ten? I would say it's Wagler or Yaks. I think.
Well, the NBA thinks it's
Yaks plays defense so much better than Wagler that I don't think you can make the case for him.
And that to me is you're getting in there into the separators that I don't know how many surface level votes you have where they just look at the stats.
Yeah.
And that kind of tells the tale. But if you look at Yax's defensive value too, I don't think it's even close. But that's
I'm with you, Sam. I don't think it's close. Best player, best team. End of story. Now, how people who vote for it, vote, I don't know.
I hate the best team thing. I would never. I always get mad when the Heisman is like, oh well, he plays for a better team. I know it helped us for Woodson one year, but no, man, it's not the best player on the best team. That's not how you find the best player.
Well, you're never going to know
find the guy. You find the best, the most outstanding player, and I think that Jackson Lendenberg's he's got the best case for that because his defense. He is a candidate for. There's several on this team, but he's the candidate for a Defensive Player of the Year because the way that he allows Michigan to switch from the basically the three, right? And it's hard to take that out of the it's hard to look at Michigan's defense outside of that context because they got Mara on the floor all the time. But the way that Yaks has allowed them to play some of the point guards in this conference is incredible.
All right, guys, we're coming back on radio. Stand by.
For it. Here you go.
Yeah.
And we're back on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back on Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA online at thebig1050.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side. Before we get back to the roundtable, I want to tell those of you who are in the market for a new vehicle, you should get on board with Brighton Ford. Go to BrightonFord.com. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD to make it out to the lot at 8240 West Grand River Avenue in Brighton, Michigan. John Cuter and his crew will take unbelievable care of you. It is the model blowout sale on 2025 Escapes. But if you're looking to lease one, you get into a 2025 Escape. Any of their remaining inventory, $246 a month with $3,500 down, or $334 a month with $500 down. Or how about the 2026 Ford F-150 XLT 2.7 liter, $291 a month with $3,500 down, or $380 a month with $500 down. And last but not least, the 2026 Ford Explorer Active 4-wheel drive, $309 a month, $3,500 down, or $396 a month with $500 down. For those and other great deals, get on board with Brighton Ford. Go to BrightonFord.com, call 1-800-NEW-FORD, or make it out to the lot at 8240 West Grand River Avenue in Brighton, Michigan. Seth Fisher, Craig Ross back with us, and the Wolverines, they have some business with Illinois tonight.
Iowa.
Excuse me.
Our business is concluded with Illinois.
Yeah, some business with Iowa tonight before they take on Michigan State in the battle for in-state supremacy. But the Big Ten title already in tow. How do you see these two games playing out? Starting with you, Seth.
Well, Iowa is interesting. They pulled Ben McCollum out of Drake, and they grabbed a lot of his Drake players too. So it's basically kind of one of those 5 seeds or 6 seeds that you end up playing in the tournament that can give anybody trouble. They're also a little bit, not athletic enough to really hang, but their defense is way better than you've expected from Iowa. It's really just about stopping Sturts, and I think that Michigan's going to be able to handle that. They're, Michigan State we've seen already. That's that I hope everyone shows up to that. I hope that Michigan fans aren't just like, we've already won the Big Ten championship. We got the Big Ten tournament, the national championship coming on. Like people aren't going to forget about Michigan State. I had another thing I want to point out. Oh, they're very Globetrotter-esque. If you want something to look for Iowa, Sturts will kind of like duck in. You see this from Michigan State a lot too. Kind of ducks into the lane, gets about to the foul line, and then turns around and kicks it back out again. And then they do that again. Like then someone else rotates and pops it back out. It looks very Globetrotter-esque. So I think it's a different challenge for Michigan. They're a tough team. Iowa's a very tough place to go to. Every Michigan fan remembers lots of really awful trips to Iowa. So I'm not putting this one in the bag. I think that we're favored by 8 or something, and I think that feels about right to me.
Yeah, Bennett Sturts is another one that they put in that Player of the Year conversation, and I'm like, man, what are we talking about? And I tell you what, Ira and I were talking earlier this morning about how many Big Ten teams will make it, and I didn't mention Iowa. I guess they're in on, according to a lot of bracketology reports. But I'm actually higher on Ohio. I'm more impressed with Ohio State right now than I am Iowa. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Last time we saw Iowa out there, they were losing to Penn State, I think it was.
Yeah, Iowa is sort of in a slump right now. I think they've lost 4 of their last 6. But they're really tough at home. They've only lost 2 games this year at home to Illinois and Purdue. They're 20-9. And I don't want to discount Bennett Sturts. I've seen him a few times. Guy can play. He's an NBA player, no question. And I hate to say this because it'll be one of the things that people demand retractions for, but I actually think he's a better player than the guy at Purdue. And
that's a hot take.
Yeah, it is a hot take, but I actually think he is. And so I'm a big fan of Bennett Sturts. Banks, the 6'7" guy, but I just don't, even though McCollum, who's a friend of Dusty, they get along, even though they've improved on defense, I'm having a hard time seeing that 6'8", 6'9", relatively inexperienced front court do anything with Merez and Mara. I mean, it just seems unlikely. Now, anything can happen on the road. Things happen. Mara gets 4 fouls in the first minute. Incidentally, going back to the Duke game, we beat Duke if Mara's on the court. Sorry. And I mean, we were +9 or +10 when he was on the court. Unfortunately, he was on the court 9 minutes. It was like he was being coached by Cronin again. Only in this case, it was the foul trouble. Yeah. But I mean, it was the one thing Michigan had over Duke was Mara. So in any event, another story.
Well, Iowa's going to be a different. They're a lot more like Nebraska. The concern is that we're basically playing a mini Nebraska on the road.
That's right.
Fulgeras he doesn't start as their center, but he's their better center. I think I like him better than Manwatu, and he's the guy they brought over from Drake. But he's a stretch guy. He's not really creating his own shots, but if they're going to go 5 out against us, when they do have Fulgeras out there, they're really kind of small. I don't think they can play the 2 of them together. So I think Michigan's going to have to, big them down. I think that, you got to have a game from Mara where he's physical on the block and, it makes it impossible for them to hold on to him there. So they have to double and then you can get some shots in. But I'm not expecting this game to be a run out. I think that, Michigan gets it up for the Illinois and whatnot, right? No team, I think, has ever won games like they won on the road this year. They went into Breslin, right? They went into Purdue. They went into Illinois. Like, those are great teams they beat on the road. They also did the same thing Iowa did at Penn State, which is kind of futz around for a while, and then Penn State actually made some shots against Iowa, and they didn't against Michigan, and that was the difference in that game. It's an ugly-looking game. But Iowa gets into those games, and I think they're going to try to play a Nebraska-style game against us, where McCollum's going to try to draw some things up. He knows these players well. It's not like, they're all from Drake. I think 4 out of his 5 starters are guys he started last year at Drake. So they're effectively all a returning team, and they have a lot of continuity together, and they're going to play like it. And that concerns me, because the Nebraska game, if the Nebraska game, Michigan wins if they're Michigan the way that we know they can play. When Michigan is like, we've already wrapped it up and we're on the road and whatnot, that's what I'm kind of concerned about. It feels like one of those just 2016 football team, right? Iowa can just come and get you the week before Ohio State, and that's kind of what it feels like.
All season long, Michigan be the outlier in that, it could be a game where a key team can sneak up on you, or you just can't maintain a peak performance in terms of shooting, or peak performance in terms of your mindset and being up for every game. But Michigan has weathered that in ways that other teams just can't. They go out west, and invariably teams, the other teams in the Big Ten are affected going out west. So they had that lull, and they get beaten by, we talk about Michigan State. They took that L to Minnesota because, man, they hit a lull. There's just been no circumstance where Michigan got caught like that. Even when they were down, even when they were, not playing at their best, it took an Herculean effort by Wisconsin shooting, and they're a really good team. Yeah. And they do, but none of the teams that you look at say they shouldn't beat Michigan, none of them have. And every other team in the Big Ten has suffered a defeat like that. But let's talk about this Michigan State team real quick. And I got to do my eating of crow like Craig did. I said some weeks ago after Michigan, or even before Michigan beat them, when you look at the top 5 teams in the Big Ten at that time, you throw 6 in there with Wisconsin, but time was talking 5. Michigan State is the worst of the 5, and it's not. I don't think it's close. I don't think they're as talented. And man, yeah, they lost to Minnesota after that, but they also took down Illinois. They also took down Purdue. I mean, they say what you want, Craig. They look like the second best team in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, they do to me too. Well, I'm not sure they're better than Illinois, but they're, for me, in my mind, sort of tied with Illinois.
They punked Illinois.
Yeah, I know. But I still, I mean, I have a bias because to me, Izzo is the Yosemite Sam of college basketball.
Here's why.
He coaches his team.
We defer to offensive prowess more than we do defensive prowess.
Yeah, that's fair.
And they are an electric shooting team when they're on. They're really dynamic offensively. They play no defense.
Yeah.
Right. And Michigan State, they play a lot of defense. They got out in transition. I think they outscored them 22-0 in transition points in that game, and then they beat them up physically. And so I like Illinois too on offense. That to win games.
I mean, look.
Punked is they went to OT in that game. It's not like that. That wasn't punked, right? What they did is Jeremy Fears is and we saw Dent do this to them. We saw Cadeau do this to them, right? Illinois is not good at controlling like those squirrely little guards. And Michigan was this team last year, right? And that's just kind of who they are. And that was I could tell that Fierce was going to give them trouble because Dent gave them so much trouble, right? And that's why they lost to UCLA. And maybe the book's out on how to beat them because they're not that team. Michigan State's problem is the other side. They're not good shooters.
They're not.
Right? And Illinois had to shoot 26% in that game to keep up, and Michigan State only shot 30%, and that was good for them.
Yeah,
right.
By I say punked, not necessarily on the scoreboard. They were beating them up physically. But that's what Michigan State does. Right. And they're going to come into Chrysler, and they're going to try to walk around tough and whatnot. And Pierce is going to do his thing. I mean, like that's Michigan State is Michigan State. They haven't surprised me all year. Cohen Carr is going to go up and get that slam a jam like 4 times in transition. It's going to happen. You expect, right? It's going to happen. There it is. And then he's going to play some defense. The one thing they've changed this year is they're using that freshman from Miami, the Ogachukwu.
Oh.
Yeah. I think he's starting now at he's not a great offensive player, but he's getting better. And he can put it down. So as long as he's not trying to create, when he's trying to create, it looks a little ugly. But, you know, as far as spacer on the team, he's way better than Jordan Scott, who was just kind of meh, or Kurt Hang, who just, you know, you don't really want him on the field. Cam Ward, they were trying to play out there at times. Like, they've been messing around with that spot. And I think Ogachukwu just gives them more spacing, and just having a guy sit there as long as they can tell him, don't try to ball handle. Whenever he does, he gets in trouble.
We got a minute left. So Michigan. Well, first, both games. What do you have Michigan doing? Michigan, Iowa, Michigan State, Seth.
Whatever Ken Palm says, I'm not looking it up.
Michigan, I think
Michigan
by
beats-
8 or 9
Yeah.
in Ken Palm, I think. I'm picking
Yeah,
Ken Palm. I'm blaming
Michigan
them. I'm
78-70
taking-
at Iowa, 78-69 over Michigan State. There you
That's
go.
what I got. That's what I got.
We'll
I
get
learned
to
my
Big
lesson.
Sports next week, Craig. I promise. Even though we will be talking Big Ten tournament, of course, but we'll get some.
Yeah. I'd like. Yeah, we get a chance. I want to talk about softball and baseball. Really interesting this year. So anyway.
See you next week, guys. And to the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA online, the Big1050.com.